Very good morning, and thank you for joining us in this special and exciting session focused on cyber resilience, and risk. What we'll do is we'll directly jump in. My name is Abhik Chatterjee. I'm an MDN partner, and I lead our technology and digital practice across Asia Pacific. I've got esteemed guests along with me here, and we will introduce themselves along the way. But if it is okay, I'll directly fire in. We've been told we are specific on time. As we know, cybersecurity and resilience has been a very important topic. Through 2024, 2025, we have seen about 67, 68% of the large oil and gas companies falling prey to many of the malicious attempts. Point number two is with the advent of AI and now agents, the way we are working and our future of work is also inducing a lot of porous holes on how we are using tools like ChatGPT, many other things, and how it makes us susceptible. And last but not the least, the India Energy Week couldn't have happened at a better time, just following the Davos meet, wherein geopolitics and AI took center stage. So, with that, let me launch into questions with my fellow colleagues here. Let me start with Amal. Amal, in your role at ONGC, specifically being the CISO, would love to hear about how, being the security head and chief of one of the largest organizations in India, how are you looking at risk? What are some of the most, if I would say, interesting and cutting edge things that ONGC is doing? And this was not there in the question before. What are two things that really keeps you awake?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be part of India Energy Week, a forum that represents not just the future of energy, but the future of India's economic resilience and national growth. So, coming to the question, see, there are some certain things that we have been doing, particularly in the OT area now. See, typically when we started OT and IT, they started with the same platform using the same Windows servers and things like that. But OT stayed in a kind of air-gapped environment, and because of that, even though systems became obsolete, people continued using them. So that became a pain point later on when the need for IT-OT convergence came in. Because for analytics, that OT data needed to go to IT area, and there the problem started coming. So we have addressed that problem in a way by using, of course, technologies, but having a very straightforward rule that in no case controls should be transferred to IT area. As far as data is concerned, data can go, data can be monitored outside, but in no case from IT, the control should be possible. Secondly, when we started cybersecurity, the concept was keep yourself secure, protect yourself. But over the years, everyone has realized that there is nothing called foolproof security. So from that perspective, the concept of cyber resilience came in. Now, this year, the thing that we are working on is not cyber resilience, because eventually, even in cyber resilience, there is a continuity break. Even for some time, the business stops. So we are now working on the concept of cyber continuity, in the sense that even if there is a breach happening or even if something happens, the business can continue. How energy flows, we are working on that aspect. And in that OT area, we have identified technologies and solutions and processes that can provide us this kind of expertise and this kind of posture. So that is one thing that is working for us. Secondly, the use of AI. Of course, the use of AI in OT can produce very good results. And if in our case, when we are using AI in the top business areas, that has given us very nice results. But from cybersecurity angle, it has created fresh problems. So now we are working on concept of secure by design, where there are greenfield areas. At the time of conceptualization itself, we are going for a kind of a secure by design concept. So there later on, add-on concept doesn't come in. These two things are our priorities in
Sure.
this year.
Let me now shift to Anil, Suhas, and Joseph. The three of you represent organizations which are leading in different forms of technology. I have two, if I would say the question is in two parts. Number one is, as you are in the market trying to outsmart the different malicious minds and varied type of risks, what are some of the top innovations that you are focusing on? And secondly, in your capacity as partners, okay, how is your interaction model to not only, let's say, sell your services, which is part and parcel of every revenue stream and P&L that we hold, but what's the kind of role that you play in, for example, coaching clients, boardrooms, because there is an appreciation of the topic that's become ever more critical and important today, right? So maybe we'll
Sure.
get you to start, sir.
Thank you very much, and very good question. First of all, introduce myself. I am Anil Bhatia, and I am responsible for Emerson business in India. Of course, Emerson is the leading automation provider, and we work with all the energy sectors here. So, to give a little bit of context to your question, if you see today, we have, if I take, let me take one industry in energy like the upstream. There is enormous data available. We are getting data available. Like if I see the best place today when it comes to the type of amount of data we have, but then obviously, once you have the data, the decision that we take in our energy sector is very risky. It has got a lot of safety issues and also capital intensive. So we have to be very, very kind of cautious. And what we are promoting there is a zero trust maturity model. To Mr. Search, regarding the legacy OT system. See, what we mean by zero trust maturity model, that any item in the whole ecosystem which has a vulnerability we monitor. So we don't trust anything. And if you see the way the securities are threats are coming in, not only from the normal perimeter but coming from the old legacy system. So that is one most important thing is on the zero trust maturity module, and which we strongly promote to all our partners and customers, that you have to ensure that have that maturity module and don't leave anything in the whole ecosystem. The second is, as you know, the AI. I mean, we use the term AI as industrial AI. Because we cannot use AI as a black box in an industrial environment where you have so much data upstream. What we do is we propose and like a hybrid. So an AI on the go will propose what can be the process, what can be the model, and then it needs to be kind of confirmed and agreed by the specialist before you start deploying that to recommendation. And the third one quickly also on the LLM. LLM uses the inherent specialization which we have. That is what LLM uses, so that you have the expertise, and that we use so that when even the new, for example, a new geophysicist come, he or she will have a lot of and intelligence already available by deploying the LLM. So these are three things which we are trying to propose to our customer as we kind of deploy the AI and the digitization models in the energy systems.
Got it. So,
Yeah. Exactly. I want to introduce myself. I'm actually Suhas Gopinath, CEO of Globals, and I started my company when I was 14, and started off as a programmer, and of course, eventually into cyber offensive and also defensive. So, our only sales pitch is because we know how to break locks, we can make better locks, and of course, with that background, I could tell. I think the attack surfaces have, of course, over the years have evolved, and uh, and with OT systems, I've seen that at least the APT groups or the state-sponsored actors are no more targeting for espionage purpose, but it's for DOS attack. Like it's actually to disrupt operations. And I think with the advent of AI, the worst thing that we've seen in our experiences is that attacks don't look like attacks anymore. It looks like, it camouflages as business operations, as if it's one of the normal operations, and it's no more about false positive issues, but it's a false negatives. So and when it's a false negative for a CISO, it's businesses can it can actually collapse. And I think I would only want to share one particular experience with one of the how to say, multinational company which is into energy sector, where the CISO was very confident that their systems were very secure. And I asked my sales team that we're not going to do any presentation to the CISO's office, but we'll only show them, we would like to show them one single screenshot of a red teaming exercise that we did on their organization. And I think in about 15 minutes with some of the AI tools, we were in the fuel management system of this particular system. And yeah, I mean, that was our sales pitch. So as a company, we didn't have to do any kind of presentation. So it's not to brag about our offerings, but it's also to highlight the vulnerabilities and the attack surfaces, the way they have evolved over the years, and especially with AI. I must tell you that as actually somebody who comes from an offensive background, it's absolutely dangerous, I would say. And I think I wouldn't expect organizations to adopt AI without understanding those risks. And it's extremely important that and if I have to advise CISOs or the OT CISOs, instead of adopting AIs across the cloud, it's very important that they could explore at least those edge AIs. Yeah.
Thanks. Joseph, over to you, and thanks for coming all the way from Houston here to join us on this panel.
Thank you, Abhi. My name is Joseph Alenchery. I head Infosys Energy Practice. Today, we are a top 2 technology services provider to the energy industry globally. And one tectonic trend we are seeing is the big increased focus on OT security. Your pipelines, your upstream assets, your refineries, that's where the action is. And with this advent of AI and agentic AI in particular, there is a focus towards unleashing this power of the agentic AI systems on OT. For instance, we have built a what we call as a drilling AI agent, which really helps drill better, looking at all the drill reports, morning reports, and all the historic data, and coming up with suggestions on a new field. And this has been launched in the Middle East recently. But all of these are acting on the OT systems. And our advice to the CXOs of the world is pretty clear. Along with the enormous power of agentic AI is the need for enormous control. And that's where we advocate a very proper control framework. At Infosys, we have an agentic AI control platform, which we also use for our cyber defense. So it's called our Cyber Next platform that really looks at how to manage and control these agentic AI systems so that they're in line with what you want them to do. At the same time, with the advent of AI, you have increased the surface area of possible attacks. Today, what used to be done by state-sponsored actors can really be done by individuals with the power of AI. For instance, you can actually simulate millions of attacks, searching for millions of vulnerabilities, which with the kind of power we have, it's kind of democratized, cyber defense or cyber attacks, and we are all facing that situation. So we advocate looking at addressing this new challenge with the new tools available, and there are ways and means in which you can use the same techniques to address this large exposure that today you have. So those are some of the big trends. Obviously, AI right front and center, and the need for control, Abhi.
No, I think great points, all three of you. Just taking a step from where all of you shared. Obviously, the aspiration and the ambition is massive, correct? And the flip side risks were clearly shared. But if we look at energy as a domain, as an industry, we have really not been at the cutting edge of both in terms of investing, adopting, and then closing the loop with technology. Obviously, there's been sparks here and there in terms of getting your twins or advanced robotics, etc. But if we look at even the largest organizations, many in India, globally as well, there are severe, if I would say, steps that need to be taken on from foundational tech. I mean, OT and IT is itself a big area, and the OT side is specifically, leave alone AI. As we look at this evolution, correct? In your opinion, and this question I would like to pose to all of you, and maybe we can start with Joseph, you traveling back this side, is what are, let's say, the top one or two things that we need as an industry, as an energy, with be it oil and gas, utilities, whichever, renewables, big bursts there. What should we do different? And to me, part of that question is more brownfield
Sure.
relevant, because
Yeah.
assets which are more greenfield are naturally, if I would say, digitally native, and hence come with a lot of the future technologies. But about 65-70% of our operating base still continues to be brownfield in nature. So what would be your top one or two, let's say, points of advice or suggestion to the large oil companies to do things a bit differently?
Yeah, Abhi, it's a billion-dollar question, and I would start by saying that acute focus on the edge is the need of the hour. On the edge is where life is, and on the edge, energy today is going to make or break nations. So, techniques like isolating, techniques where you can have an identity management approach that is not focused on humans, but actually focused on your devices on the edge. For instance, non-human identity management, as we call it, just-in-time identity management, where you have or just-in-time access, where you give your PLC controllers access just in time. So techniques like that, where you have an acute focus on the edge and you develop methods to manage the edge, is what is the need of the hour. And as our friend Amal said, resilience is the other keyword. Despite the attacks, despite the shutdowns that are required to manage the cyber threats, how do you continue to operate? How do you continue to operate your pipelines, your upstream assets? So, if you can build resilience into your systems, I mean, I think these are some of the things that I would take off the top of my hat, number one and number two. Thank you.
Amal?
Yeah, I totally agree with what he said. The basic thing is, if you should get the foundations right before you scale intelligence. And AI, which is built on a say flat network or weak identities and all, is bound to fail at some time or the other. Thirdly, when you're building AI, as I mentioned, the controls, if you're giving it to it, you should be very sure of it. Dr. Kalam has once said, technology is a very good servant, but a very bad master. So, if you're making it the master, be sure that ultimately you are the super master. In our context, we have ensured that AI gives the advisory, but the final call, the accountability remains with the human. He takes the final call and he implements or he rejects whatever is suggested by the AI. Now, lastly, now earlier we had concepts of VAPT, one that was point in a time exercise. But now the concept is of continuous evaluation or continuous threat monitoring. So concepts like CTEM and all are need to be implemented to get the better aspects of AI used in the environment.
Suhas?
Of course, my only take or submission is uh, maybe to add on cyber resilience. It's also very important to ensure that I would say cyber resilience has to be treated on the same quadrant as much importance that we give uh, for safety drill. And I've actually seen that I think the biggest threat for CISOs right now is on supply chain security. And uh, it's for some reason that we assume that when we are procuring it from certain PSUs, or if the vendor happens to be a multinational, it is assumed that we need to trust them, but it's not the case. We've seen it in the Indian armed forces. We've seen it across energy sectors and also critical industries that, of course, supply chain security, of course, can fail. And as Amal sir mentioned, that it's very important that apart from VAPT, we need to have the continuous red teaming of the OT systems.
Sure. Any
No,
final?
so I think all the gentlemen said very valid points. I just want to add few things, to Amal sir, that in AI terms, what Emerson is doing, for example, in our control system, we have inbuilt now and virtual advisor. And every action that virtual advisor is proposing is an advice. We are not putting AI as a black box and it takes action. The action is finally confirmed and reviewed and then taken. But it really helps a lot in speeding up. To your primary question, AI has not come fully. Yes, but that is the way to kind of get there. And secondly, a very important thing I think is the ability to discover all the areas in that current OTIT, the way it has evolved. There will be so many legacy systems. in the system. So, like within our Delta V system, for example, we have a discovery model which will be able to discover all the source of threats which can occur in that system, and nothing is left, as I said, the zero trust. So I think these are the two important aspects I would like to add to what the gentleman said.
Thanks. I think very, very valuable thoughts. I think one word I thought we could have added is getting organizations to invest and give primary importance to it, because often cybersecurity is like the fifth item in your checklist, and it becomes number one only when you get hacked and when you are held on ransom. And I think that mind shift has to happen sooner than later. I know we are racing against time. I have bundled one final question to all of you, and let's take about 30-40 seconds to answer that. Is we are in a very strange world wherein the best humans in the technology space are limited. The agents are yet not reliable, but we are trying to create a future which is perfect, right? In each of your areas, how are you managing that conundrum? And any wrapping thoughts? So more from a people, talent, as well as, and we've been largely, if I would say, partly reactive and then trying to be proactive in this entire risk resilience domain. But any thoughts on how you are approaching this gap, and any very interesting hacks or steps that each of you are taking? Like to time it to about 30-40 seconds. A quick rapid fire on this. Sorry for that.
Oh, thank you, Abhi. Rapidly saying, I think reimagine, rethink skills is what we have been telling our employees, and hence we are trying to train them at scale for bracing to the new AI world. So, a lot of digital training and focused on reimagining how you worked before, and I think that's the core of what we are trying to do as a company. Learn at scale, unlearn at scale, relearn at big scale. Amal.
Yeah, I would like to first start with agreeing with you fully that make cybersecurity and AI a leadership and investment decision. It should be discussed in the same rooms where we discuss safety, where we discuss investments, where we discuss reliability. That is at the boardroom level. Unless the boardroom gives priority to AI and cybersecurity, it will remain a small area and it will remain a pain area. Secondly, design cyber controls into assets from day one means go for secure by design architectures, and at that time also assure yourself that the supply chain vulnerabilities and other things are getting plugged, so that later on when we are like even in OT area, if you are implementing IEC 62443 and things like that, if inherently the products being used don't comply fully, then still that vulnerability will exist. Lastly, treat cybersecurity and safety equally. Engineered into systems, tested under failure, and this should be not be a one-time exercise. This should be a rolling exercise carried out periodically, maybe by third party, maybe internally. But there has to be a management insight into it. So we should move from cyber resilience to cyber continuity, wherein we should have secure by design, resilient by default, and continuous by intent.
Suhas.
My take is, I think, as organizations, especially in the energy sector, they need to invest into cyber ranges, so that it's one way to upskill the professionals who are in cybersecurity. And I've started to see, and of course also inspired by my last meeting within the World Economic Forum, is that we've started to see these new positions. Who's controlling the models that are being deployed within the organizations for LLMs and SLMs. You got model security officer, you got AI security officer. So I think if organizations could invest into cyber ranges to upskill and also to reskill the of course, professionals, it's very important. And it's a very important point that you brought out, Abhi, because I think CISOs has to be. I think they need to have a seat on the board, and it's extremely important because it's not to fulfill any kind of compliance with certain or any of the regulatory body, but I think for the organization's well-being, it's extremely critical that they report to the board directly.
I'll make it very quick. Everybody said rightly, and investment is the key, as you rightly said. But most importantly, what we are saying, I'll be very practical here. It will remain a hybrid world, and it will not be that humans will be replaced by AI. So AI has to be deployed at this stage to make sure that the humans are more equipped and more powerful to do things in a better way, and of course in a cyber secure way. So thank you.
Super. First of all, I know we have almost run out of time, but massive thanks to each one of you for not only sharing the insights, but also being on the stage. And thank you to India Energy Week for having us and the privilege on this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.